It's Thursday, June the 12th. Lake level is about 927 3/4. It's actually came down almost a foot in the last 24 hours. They got the floodgates open and they're generating a bunch of water trying to get the lake level down. Water temperature throughout the lake, it's, 70 to mid 70s, depends where you're at. There's still quite a bit of debris and trash in the lake, especially in the river arms, but for the most part, if you pay attention, be careful. I mean, the lake is in pretty good shape, especially in the Kimbling City, Baxter, Shell Knob, down by the dam. There's water recreation. As long as you be careful, everything's fine out there. There's still, with them generating this much water and the floodgates open, it's going to start pulling a lot of that trash out of the river arms. So, there will be a lot of floaters and debris. But it seems like if the wind picks up, it at least kind of blows it up to one side or the other to make it a little easier to navigate. But, as far as the fishing goes, I think it's kind of been messed up, for the last several weeks with the water coming up and down. We fished 2 tournaments last week. And believe it or not, but I fished that we caught, we had, I think, 14.5 in one and 14 pounds in the other. And all those fish were spawning fish. There are still fish spawning in the very backs of the coves. Some of them still garden fried. And I think that should be the tail end of it. But with the spawn being later, it's kind of put the post-spawn bite further behind and then the water coming up. Make a long story short, normally this time of year we've got a really good topwater bite. The fish are out there chasing shad, feeding up after the spawn, but I think there's been so many different things going on with the water coming up, the water going down, that mainly what I've been doing is concentrating on shallow fish with as much water as what's up in the newly flooded brush. And what's been working best for me up there is creature baits. I'm flipping with the Sunline 20-pound shooter. There's no need to go with light line as thick as some of the brushes that I'm flipping into. It seems like I'm looking for places where I can get into people's backyards, where it's we call it hay grass, or if you're up in a field somewhere where you got some grass and then isolated trees and bushes, and trying to find them in that 8 to 10 foot range seems to be the key depth. But for the most part, I'm pegging my weight, throwing a 5/16 tungsten weight with a 4/0 Gamakatsu flipping hook, and I'm throwing several different baits. Missile D-bombs, and it depends on the water clarity. If the water's fairly clear, I'll throw something in a watermelon or a green pumpkin. If it's dirtier, I'll throw something more towards, a black and a blue. And this is the regular size D-bomb. If bite gets a little tougher, I will swap to the baby D-bomb. And normally what I'll do is I'll go to a 3/0 Gamakatsu hook on it. But that's been the most consistent for me, is flipping the bushes. Now, my wife and I went out the other evening for a few hours, and we caught them really good on a spinnerbait up here in the James. And lots of painted blades. Let me see if I can find it here. Heck, I think I got it tied on. Nope. Yeah, here it is. But it's kind of called a coleslaw, what we used to throw years ago when the water came up real high like this, and if it's got some stained water in it, painted blades seem to work real well. Spro makes one also. It's called a thumper blade. If I get into a little bit of dirtier water, it's got like a Colorado and Indiana blade, chartreuse and blue. But we're just throwing it, really shallow, right up into what we call the hay grass, or people's backyards, a lot of times I only had the boat in about 5-6 foot of water, and the fish were, 2 to 3 foot deep. Now we had perfect conditions, we had a little wind blowing in on the banks that we was fishing, But if they didn't bite the spinnerbait, I could back out to that 6 to 8 foot range on them flatter banks and start flipping the bushes. Now I know some of the guys are catching them down lake in the clearer water on football jigs, some fish still being caught on tubes on them long gravel flat points. The good thing about them running all this water, if you can find them, we like to fish what we call current points. If there's an island where the majority of the water is flowing between the island and it's got a break on one side or the other where it drops off, maybe the channel comes in front of the island. If you can find them in those areas like that, the fish will really stack up in there. And a lot of what I'll throw in there is, little swim baits. It depends if the fish are on the bottom or they're suspended. But if you can find the bait and the fish out there, a little scrounger head with like a fluke style bait, or just a 2.8 or 3.3 swim bait on a 1/4 ounce or 3/8 ounce head will work real well. And even a drop shot on a lot of them long flat gravel points. If you kind of look at which way the water is flowing, if the point comes way out where you feel like the water flow is coming over that point that's way out in the middle of that lake, that's a good place to find them on a drop shot, a jig, and a tube. And they'll usually get on the back sides of them breaks where they can, get out of the water flow, but as bait fish, stuff like that is flowing over the top of the point, they can ambush them. So I think, that bite, especially where we're a little further into the post spawn, the fish are out there starting to feed up, a little better. But I'm still finding, every day it's a trial and error. I have not had much of a, say, like a whopper plopper or a buzzbait bite. Other than the spinnerbait, I don't find the fish are in much of a chase mode. And the spinnerbait, I did pretty much have to, slow roll it. I'm not burning it, just throwing it around the cover on the sides of it. But, like I say, I've tried some square bills in the same areas, but so far I haven't found the fish to be, wanting to chase the lure real bad. It's the plastics, the slower presentation jigs have been working a little bit better for me. But hopefully we don't get too much more rain in the next week, and the lake will, as the lake comes down, that offshore bite is, will get better and better. Right now there's so much good looking cover in the water. The fish have got so many places to hide. It's kind of intimidating the fish, but you just got to pick an area and try to pick it apart. One day they'll be on a dead tree or a willow. Other days they'll be in the green bushes. You just got to kind of mix it up till you get a few bites. And there's a lot of other baits that you can flip besides the ones I was talking about here. I flip a lot of beaver style baits, Strike King rodents. You could even throw a big brush hog. I'm sure you could probably even throw a Texas rig worm in there. But I do find that pegging my weight and rigging a Texas rig comes through the bushes a lot better. I can fish it a lot more efficiently. So till next week, good luck, good fishing.